Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for joining us. It is indeed a terrific Tuesday. We get a chance to focus on agriculture. Tomorrow is our annual agriculture show as we invite you to be a part of a discussion. One of our guests is going to be a very familiar face, truly an amenable, wonderful fellow to chat with. And you hear me say, you think, and he's young and handsome too. Well, I'll tell you who it is. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. And in the studio, truly honored to have the good company of the former Minister of Agriculture, the Honorable D. Tibbetts. Sir, thank you very much for letting us chat with you, not just about agriculture, but to be able to remind our country that it's not just about food security. It's not even about encouraging our next generation of farmers, but to appreciate from one perspective, it's the science, the art of gardening. It's the importance of being able to say to your people, there's honor, there's integrity in tilling the soil, but equally in understanding the science and the acumen behind, agriculture. And to see people like yourselves so easily and graciously go into the backyard or to the 1,000-acre farm, as it were, and being able to talk about all sorts of things related to husbandry. Man, it's amazing. It's encouraging. It makes me almost want to be a farmer. Almost. How are you today, sir?
I'm very well, and I want to say a very special hello to our listening audience today. And I'm so glad that what I've come about today is the annual agriculture show and not something else. Thank God.
That's tomorrow?
The show is tomorrow, yes. The show is tomorrow. And really, just listening to your opening remarks, you are certainly on point. One of the things that I always hold near and dear to me from growing up. Mm-hmm. So here's how, and I say this very swiftly, or I will attempt to. I grew up going to school in Jamaica. Primary school, straight on to A-levels. Luckily, was able to be back home just about every holiday that I chose to come home, that is to the BRAC at that time, because I was able to get a job being a wrapper at one of the large department stores working every Saturday. And so I was easy by the time summer came or Christmas came, I always was able to. But from those days, even when I would go back to the BRAC, life was still where outside of those who were out to sea, just about everybody was living off of the land and the sea. And when people would go up on top of the bluff to their ground, they would bring back, or whether 2 or 3 of them go, they would bring back the basket full of provisions. And they would share out, this is for this one, this is for that one, and this is for the next one. And the guy who went fishing and caught some ocean turbot, came in on the shallow water and got some squabs, when he came back and cleaned his fish, and he twisted that string like that, this lot is for so and so, and this lot is for so and so. And I want to tell you this, and I make a wager on this with anyone who's listening. Life was better.
Yeah.
Life was perhaps not as richer, but life was better, and that is all a very relative situation. So your roots, my roots, go back to those days, and for somebody like myself, I never ever want to lose that, regardless of what else happens in life and what you become and what your profession is. I never ever wanted to lose that, so hence I cling to that all the time.
If I may, and this is...
Be careful, don't ask me, it's too difficult now, you know.
No.
Okay.
I mean, even for cameras, this is easy.
I'm getting up in age here.
There's something that one of the primary reasons I enjoy having the opportunity to talk about agriculture is because my brother Dwight, I don't think he ever, I never heard him talk about, food security in terms of public policy and national policy, but always by example, always by impressing the importance of having something. So thankfully, if I want a pepper or a bread fruit or something, chances are I just call him up and it's there. But he said, but what if I don't have it? The supermarket.
He's hinting that you must grow your own.
No, he's not hinting. He tell me straight up. Those days are hinting are gone.
Yeah.
And yet I look at our society for some strange reason. I've always believed that the North Sound and the wider surrounding body of water was the farm, as it were. And people like my father and them have a healthy respect for what we know in this era talk about sustainable farming and being environmentally conscious and all those things. They did those things because they understood it was good sense. Don't take the young conks. Don't take more conks than you need. They understood that. They didn't need no conservation laws.
They were their own law.
Yeah, they understood that, right? Okay, yeah, people probably abused it, but for the most part, they didn't. Then I fast forward to today and I see two things. I see us as parents, as educators, sometimes, whether deliberately or sadly, inadvertently, conveying to our young people that there isn't this level of respect or economic benefit or whatever from, just generally speaking, farming, unless you're the food scientist or whatever, right? Now, if he doesn't mind me saying, I've used him as an example a few times publicly, a gentleman with the intellect and acumen of a Joel Walton. I'm incredibly, to me, probably one of the smartest people that there is. And yet, like you, he tills the soil, he understands the plant names, he can talk to you with the greatest of insight.
He can talk plant language.
Plant language, right?
Yes.
With the best of them. And I thought, here's a fella that you could put him in the presence of royalty and the highest CEOs and the richest people in every facet, or you can put him, by himself in the garden, tending to...
Farm to table.
Yeah. An amazing gentleman.
That's his thing, farm to table.
Before there was, he was, right? And yet, how do we get our people? This is why tomorrow, to me, is important, because maybe more of us would see it. There's a gifting, I think, for the green thumb, as we would call it. My daughter used to, hopefully mama don't mind me saying it, make fun of, she would get up in the morning and after you sweep the house, you put the broomstick. Now, this is an old broomstick that, put it down on the tile floor, the concrete, and by afternoon, it had sprouted. she could grow anything.
So she had a green thumb.
Her whole body.
Okay.
Yeah, some of us know. We would kill ornamental plants.
Most of the reason for that, this is my view now, when you talk about people having a green thumb, is your mind has... how do I put this? Let me put this, trying to put it succinctly.
Yeah.
Your mind controls just about every single thing else that surrounds you.
So man thinks he does it. Huh?
And therefore, if your mind is not in the right frame when you are planting, you can forget it, because you're just not going to do it right. Simple as that. I want to. You talk about Joel, and I couldn't agree with you more. By the way,
yes, sir.
But I just want to say that I don't think all is lost here in our country. Really, I don't think all is lost, because I can't say that I can pinpoint a lot of young people who are full-time going into this thing called farming. What I can say is that the vast majority of people who now have their own homes are planting. Yeah. And that's a huge victory. And there are some people who are in farming commercially who think, and I make no accusations personally, I'm just making a general statement,
Yes, sir.
who think that it is not a good thing for every time a set of Frank Hall homes go up, that those who buy, even though they don't have much space, that they get an avocado tree, a mango tree, or something else in it, because they figure that might lessen their sales when they sell commercially. Not so.
No.
Babies are being born every day. Population is increasing all the time. And that's not about whether I wish it or don't wish it. That's a fact.
Yeah.
It never has decreased here in the Cayman Islands, to the best of my knowledge, because we've never had any kind of wipeouts, because God has blessed us.
Amen. Yeah.
And thank God, we should always remember that and always be thankful to Him every day of the week.
Amen.
But I'm just saying, so people are planting more. And the other thing that is, and I chime on this whenever I get the opportunity, but the other thing that is so heartening to me, and I take the time out to go and notice it, is every one of the supermarkets, whatever local produce and other products are able to be had, they will buy and put it on their shelves and make special note, local produce or local meats or whatever. Now, local eggs, local poultry. Now the other thing about it is when you look at that, you know then that it's not a chicken and egg situation anymore. You know that the public is buying it once you can produce a good quality product consistently at a reasonable price. Those are the three ingredients to make it work for you. And even the backyard farmers who only once a month or once every 2 months might have a nice bunch of green bananas, that's okay. They can sell it.
Yeah.
And then you have the market, the Hamlin Stevenson market at the grounds. Just Saturday gone, I went by there, not just to buy half of a pumpkin, because we were going to play dominoes and I was making a run down, but I wanted to just have a look to see the workings of it since it was opened. And God rest his soul, Kirkland Nixon and Hamlin were the two, and Joel Walton were the driving forces behind making that become a reality. Of course, government assisted, but without them it wouldn't have happened. And I say this, just looking at the...
Yes, sir.
Looking at the activity there alone made me feel really good. The place was teeming with people, and they had all kinds of goods, produce, cooked food, coconut water, juices, everything you could think about selling there. And that's how it should be. And I don't mean that it's all over. I don't mean we have arrived. But notwithstanding the hitches that we have all the time, sometimes weather-related, other times disease-related, the fact is I believe that farming is on the move. Back to the show. The show is tomorrow. Begins at 9 o'clock. Lots of people come earlier because they want to get the cream of the crop when they come to buy their pepper trees or their avocado trees. But that's fine too.
Yeah.
But there are lots and lots of activities which will take place on Ash Wednesday, which is tomorrow. And I think that there are many exciting things. People come, they either want, well, not everyone, but lots of people come to see. Some people come to buy. Some people come to do both. So you have all of the animals, and there's a...
And then there's a livestock as well. I just kidding.
Yes.
That's what
I chose to say animals
I know.
just to make sure.
I know.
I am careful how I speak. And then, of course, there's also a huge children's section which has been expanded this year again. Last year it was very popular, and many of the children went on the slides and all of the other little activities. And that's been expanded. And there's even a spelling bee contest But of course, this is a very special spelling bee contest because it's not just any words. It's all to do with agriculture. So if we have to pause, I will.
Yeah, when we come back from the break, continue discussion. And this is where it's not just fascinating, it's not just intriguing, it's encouraging. And I think we will look at just the theme alone. The future is indeed going to be beaming and bright. I'm going to pause and take a break. When we come back, we'll join our callers. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Do you think my kid is not into that? When it comes to marijuana and other drugs, well, think again. Being a teen in this country isn't easy. They face a lot of pressures and might overlook the values you taught them. Even the teen least expected can be tempted to try drugs. As a parent, you are the biggest influence in your kids' lives. So when you're talking to them, be clear and firm about the subject of drugs. Listen to them. They might be at a crossroad and need your help. Talk to your teens about drugs before someone else does. For more information, call 949-9000 or visit us at www.ndc.ky. This message is brought to you by the National Drug Council.
We invite you to tune in to the next presentation of CI Retro Talk Today on Friday, February the 28th at 12:15 p.m. on Radio Cayman, when we bring you the second in the 3-program series on the path to the Cayman Islands' first constitution in 1959, Cayman Islands politics and governance. This program will focus on the origins and development of political parties in the Cayman Islands and is being brought to you by the Ministry of Health, Environment, Housing and Culture. They are always working diligently to protect, promote and advance the sustainability of our health, environment, housing, culture, history and heritage, the knowledge of which is important to planning the path forward. That's CI Retro Talk Today on February the 28th at 12:15 p.m. on Radio Cayman. Be listening.
Join the Radio Cayman team on Ash Wednesday tomorrow, February 26th, for the 53rd Annual Agriculture Show live from the Stacey Watler Pavilion in Lower Valley. Live coverage will begin at 9 a.m. Radio Cayman's Agriculture Show broadcast will be brought to you by the Water Authority, Grape Tree Cafe, A.L. Thompson, Cayman Insurance Center, Pure Art, Foster's, Peskill, South Coast Bar and Grill, Coca-Cola, and Edie's Decor.
Spring is in the air at Edie's Decor, and no better time to freshen up your home for 2020. Discounted wood-look porcelain tiles, marked down extra large tiles, 50% off selected items, and prices as low as $1.32 per square foot. Exterior, bathroom, and kitchen. Edie's has your home makeover covered. Edie's Decor in Eastern Avenue. February tile blowout. 2 days only, Friday 8 to 5, and Saturday open until 4.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us, and especially thanks to the former Minister for Agriculture, Mr. Tibbetts. Thanks for joining us, because it's not just you in your presence as whatever title you may have had, but with great respect to that, it's you in your presence of who you are, and sort of that endearing spirit that many of us would see when it comes to agriculture. Whether you want to look at it formally and official, or whether you want to say, it's farming. As you shared earlier, the notion that each of us, if we were to plant that thing that we like, the mango tree, the gooseberry, the avocado, maybe the tomatoes, the green bananas, now that we don't want them to ripen, we just want some green bananas for the fish dinner. If we were doing that on our own just to complement our dinner table, it means a lot to what it would sort of convey to the society.
Yep. And backyard farming is picking up. I think I'm safe in saying that. I didn't forget, but let me take this juncture to just let everyone know that the Honourable Minister Juliana O'Connor Connolly, who is the Minister of Agriculture, she's been trying to get here from yesterday.
Yes, sir.
But outside of government business. Also, from yesterday, the various overseas guests started to arrive, so she has had to continuously been meeting and greeting. And so when the president asked me to come, I could no better do than to say yes. So here I am.
Well, thank you.
So go ahead.
We do have a caller join us.
Sure.
Let's invite and welcome our callers to contribute, as we talk about agriculture. Good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. We have been enjoying your conversation over here in Cayman Brac.
All right, good afternoon.
Okay.
Welcome.
And I would like to say the first thing that I think about Cayman Brac when I think about farming is Mercherito Chantelope. And Cayman Brac will hold our agriculture show over here on March 29th. I think I have that date correct. But we have a smaller community than the Grand Cayman community, but it's quite impressive what we have had to show in the past times. And Miss Juliana, or Honorable Juliana O'Connor Connolly, she has done her part and tremendous work in encouraging people to get started with backyard farming.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
So I didn't know if you had any questions about the things that are growing over here, but there continues to be farming over here. There's a goat farm that has started recently, and there are people that continue with cattle and farming in a small way. I know Mr. Mercherito's family members, they continue to have farming also.
Yes, ma'am. Just to let you know, I am pretty well caught up to myself. I'm pretty well caught up to speed with what goes on in the Brac by way of agriculture. But you are right, and as you mentioned, Mercherito, he was a very dear friend of mine, and certainly even now, we miss him not just as a person, and that importantly too, because he was a good man, but also in the area of agriculture, he was, should I say, the nucleus of all that went on in Cayman Brac during his time. And it is good to know that others have continued in that tradition, even though it is difficult to step in his shoes.
Right.
Kudos to his wife and the other family members who have continued his tradition, and I wish them every success now and in the future.
Yes, ma'am.
So there are other people on Cayman Brac that are also into cattle and chicken farming and other areas.
Tell me
too.
about the chicken farming. I'm not so up to speed. I know about the goats, but I'm not so up to speed with the chicken farming.
Well,
is it commercial chicken or just eggs or both?
I'm not really sure how to answer that question. So I could be wrong on what I've heard.
Okay.
So I can't really...
But there is some level of chicken farming going on, because over here in Grand Cayman, there are people who actually now not just do eggs. They do eggs, and eggs are always in the supermarkets nowadays, local eggs. But there are some people who are actually breeding and slaughtering.
The meat production as well.
Yeah. Chickens, and some of them are selling what is called free range. Doesn't mean they're wild. Some people take that to mean they have to be wild, but that's not so.
Yeah. Well, as you were sharing, Mom, the idea that on all three islands, we're seeing agriculture, and I think to a great extent the Brac is so well poised for agriculture, and it's amazing what we can do with Citibits.
Well, the soil on the bluff is the best soil that I have ever heard of and know of.
Better than West Bay?
Yes. And I say that with no disrespect to any, and mostly it's because that there are it's not overrun, and people have, because a lot of people in Cayman Brac, they farm other people's land who are not farmers, and everybody's happy and everybody's a winner, because those who own the land, they don't even question what happens. They just know when the stuff shows up at the front door. This is your share because we harvested so many yams or whatever.
Yeah.
But because of that availability of land, they're able to rotate their crops. And Murcherito was master at that. He could rotate his crops to get optimum production. Because, for instance, when you plant yams, if you use the same plot of land and you plant, by your third year, the law of diminishing returns takes over. Those are proven facts, not read in a textbook, but people have proven that. So that's how the old people knew how to do that. And that's part of the big success for those who grow stuff in the brack.
So as you were sharing, Mom, on the brack in particular, anything else you want to tell us about?
Yes, I want to say that the reason why food tastes so good from Jamaica and Cuba and Cayman brack and this general Caribbean area is because of bauxite. The bauxite soil gives the Cuban tobacco, for example, these special tastes. And bauxite is the secret of this dark soil. And it is fantastic for giving the food that's grown in this area that special taste, okay?
Yes, ma'am. And that's why the parish of St. Elizabeth is known so much for especially their tubulars, underground stuff grown, sweet potatoes and yams and that kind of stuff, for the very same reason.
Thank you very much, Mom. And I think as we listen to the caller, perhaps we can be encouraged and excited about how farming in this country. Now, this debate certainly tomorrow is important, but go right ahead, because I hopefully have you back on at some point.
If we can move on, I just want to mention some of the things that are happening at the show, so people who are listening now will have some idea of what to expect. As I said, the opening ceremony begin at 9, but the gates open from 7:30, so that if those who want to not be engaged in the rush hour. So at the opening ceremony, there will be the usual dignitaries, and then I want to also explain to members of the public that parking at the grounds was expanded last year, and there is continued expansion this year. So there are surrounding parking lots which can be utilized this year. So the parking is just continues to get better, because I think this is perhaps the one event which consistently brings the most people together at any point in time during the course of the year, because it is anticipated that at least 10,000 bodies go through the gates of the agriculture grounds in recent times for all the shows that we had. I mentioned the kids area, and I mentioned the spelling bee competition. There's also the cooking competition, which features the tourism apprenticeship program students going head to head in direct competition. That's always exciting. Also, under the pavilion at 11 o'clock, 2 of the island's cooks treat the show participants to a demonstration and tasting of their culinary expertise in 2 of the favorite dishes of the islands. I don't know what those 2 dishes are, but if the people say 2 favorites, then I'm sure there are. Of course, there are the usual traditional exhibits of plants, home products, crops, and of course, I was reminded by Mistress Ellen Eden this morning to not forget, but rather to remember to speak to the district stalls and encourage people to go and visit the district stalls. So while you're doing your walkabouts, please seek out the district stalls and go looking for them. The Department of Tourism has their booth. DEH is there with regards recycling, and HSA is there with regarding to show about health and lifestyle patterns. So there are all of those various booths and others. The Cayman AIDS Foundation, the National Drug Council. There are information booths about hydroponics. And there's also the CARDI information booth, which is the Caribbean Agricultural Research and Development Institute. And the hazard management group will also be there, so that people can have an idea of how the country is protected during disasters. So one of the highlights of the show, I take a pause so that hopefully not be too boring. One of the highlights of the show is the Chicago Boys. It's an acrobatic show, and it is something wonderful to see. We've had similar shows in the past, and I'm sure that everybody will be really excited. I don't know if you've ever seen some of these guys in action, but I can promise you that I could never get myself in some of those positions. I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah, a little acrobatic, huh?
No, you better believe it. But they're wonderful to watch. And you know what? I don't know about anybody else, but for me, it's not just their performance, but their story.
Yeah.
And that makes me warm to people like that. When people bring people from different types of beginnings, and they could easily have gone the wrong way, and people take the time out to catch on to them.
There by the grace of God, huh?
And there, you're right, by the grace of God, go people like you and I. And to see that they're able to make themselves develop those skill sets and be that dedicated to real, live, quality performance, let me tell you, man, that's laudable in any man's language. So I hope people would look forward to going and watching those people perform. There's also the Clifton Hunter High School Steel Pan band who will be playing. Of course, don't forget now, buy your raffle tickets. The top prize is $20,000, and there are other conciliary prizes. What else do we have that we got? There are demonstrations by the canine group and the livestock and the horse demonstrations also.
A lot of interesting things going on. So when we come back from this final break, Mr. Tibbetts, I invite you to share with us, because people don't realize how not only is this, as you said, 10,000, whether that's 10% or whether that is 40% of the population. A lot of people go through, and there's a lot of good things happening, right?
Yeah. Just before you go,
yes, sir.
Since you said that, I will forget this because I'm aging now, slowly but surely. There is no better time to meet up with family and friends who you haven't seen for quite some time. And let me tell you, I just, you know what I love to do? I love to stand up and lean up somewhere and just watch all of it happen.
Yep.
And it just gives me goosebumps when I see people, the joy in people's faces, seeing somebody else and giving each other a hug. And, that's how life should be all the time. We shouldn't be at each other's throats like we are in many instances. But not saying anything about that right now. But albeit, tomorrow is the day for everybody to show up.
There you go, man. Well, we're looking forward to continued discussion. So join us after the break.
Start getting your debt under control with a debt consolidation loan from Fidelity Bank. At Fidelity, your loan decision is quick with no runaround. Plus, with competitive interest rates and fees, we will help you reduce your monthly payments and get you back to living again. Don't let the burden of overwhelming debt tie you down this year. Call Fidelity today and let's make it happen with a Fidelity Bank debt consolidation loan. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Wow, looks good. What is that?
Chicken chair.
What did you just say to me?
Chicken chair.
I am not a chicken.
Whoa! I said chicken share. It's from KFC. Bucket of 12 hot wings, 6 pieces of chicken, or 8 tenders. KFC chicken share. Just $12 each.
Oh.
Want some chicken, tenders, or hot wings?
You're sharing your chicken share with me?
The new chicken share from KFC. Just $12 each. And it's finger-licking good. Dine at KFC Baytown Plaza, KFC Shedden Road, or KFC at the Strand.
Radio Cayman News.
Police are investigating after a public figure allegedly assaults a woman at a West Bay establishment.
Premier, the Honourable Alden McLaughlin, acknowledged that the European Union's decision is deeply disappointing.
As expeditiously as possible, be removed from any such lists.
Referendum law regarding the cruise port is found to be incompatible with Section 70 of the Constitution.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. And if I may, not just on behalf, not that they've asked me to, but, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Department of Agriculture, the Agriculture Society, the farmers, those of us who love to eat good, wholesome, healthy, nutritious, delicious things that are grown from the soil. Well, tomorrow, accept the opportunity to go out. Now, it's the 53rd. I kept saying the 54th for some reason. But it was the 53rd annual agriculture show.
Yeah.
I was saying
by
54.
By the calendar year, it would have been 54, but a hurricane got in the way.
So I was not totally wrong.
It was not Hurricane Ivan.
No.
Hurricane Gilbert.
Gilbert, yep. So I was thinking, okay, so there you go. I knew my math wasn't that bad. I mean, Susan double-checked it. She sent it to the committee. No. All right, so.
And they tried to have a show, but it really was not
yeah.
It was a wonderful attempt, but stuff wasn't there. Because timing-wise, Gilbert and Ivan were almost same day in September. I think 11th and 12th. So you didn't have much of a chance to recover then.
Mm-hmm.
Although we didn't get hit half as bad by Gilbert as by Ivan, but at the time, Gilbert was 88. So the resilience was not as strong as 2004. I don't want to forget the children performing at the really high level in quadrille, band, dance, and the flat pole. We've seen some of them perform before, so I'm sure that'll be exciting too. I just wish to get back to speak 1 minute about agriculture in Cayman, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
Any day of the week that we do a cross-examination, we could find improvements that could be made on the government participation in agriculture, the society's participation, the department's participation, people's participation. So if we want to find things that, to put it nicely, could be improved upon, we can find those every day of the week. But I believe that we also need to take the time out and give credit to the good things that are happening. The supermarkets are now fully on board with local produce, local meats, whatever local that is of quality enough that can be put on the shelf. That's my best way of saying it, because you can't expect to grow stuff that is inferior and expect it to be treated as acceptable or superior quality things. But we now have the ability and the expertise to grow things the right way. So supermarkets are there ready, and they engage quite readily. There was once a period of time when that couldn't happen. The abattoir has helped because the supermarkets were afraid of the way that animals were being slaughtered, and they weren't sure if people would get sick or that kind of stuff. So that has cured itself. The farmers are growing either by way of hydroponics or other technologically advanced methods, fruits, vegetables, and that those kinds of things that, I mean, you see, I still don't believe I can say it right. Arugula.
Arugula.
My daughter is asking me to go buy arugula. I said, what the hell are you talking about, arugula? Arugula? That sounds like Greek. But I'm saying that's grown locally.
Yep.
It's on the shelf, and people buy it.
Yep.
So it goes to show.
And they're asking for it.
Yeah. The discerning customer now wants local. Once the variation in the price is not too much, they understand that it might be a little bit more expensive than what is imported, and they understand why that is the case. Once it is within a certain range, and once the quality is good. So I say that to say that everything is in place for us to do more farming, and there are areas which have not even been touched, where there's imported stuff year-round. Some of us just need to take the time out, because some of the things are take longer to get to the point where you start to make back your money. And I know it's not easy. Okay. So it's not something that can happen overnight. But I am excited because of what I see on a regular basis being sold in the supermarket, what I see being sold at the market, knowing that it's grown and harvested here, right in Grand Cayman. There's always room for improvement. And I would encourage people to look at all the possibilities that they might have, even your backyard. People to do much more. And I'm going to tell you something else. In all of my years as a legislator, as a life member of the Lions Club, all kinds of other things. I don't want to try to talk about myself, but in all of those vocations and everything else that I have done, my backyard has been my sanity. Whenever things bother me, I can go amongst my trees and get myself back down to normal. And I can feel God's presence. And I ain't making this up. So it is no wonder people like me consider farming almost holy. And I mean that.
Yeah.
Because when you're down and out, when you figure that everything is going to just swallow you up, you can go to that sanctuary and you can find your peace and you can find your God. And I tell the country that because I live that. Now, if that ain't worth it, then go find something else to do in another world to live in. Yeah. That's my view.
I hear you, son. No, it's
Forgive me, but
no.
I just needed to say that.
I hear you, and I see it. I see it with people who come home from work, no matter what their work is, and they're tired, they're tested, they're stressed, they're taxed, and they go in their pot and shed, their whatever it is, and for them it's the backyard somewhere. And there's a thing that happens between going out and coming back in, whether it's an hour or 4 later. And it's good that they do that because I think, like you said, no pun intended, it grounds them.
Yeah.
So tomorrow, for the public, get a chance to meet friends and rekindle, those relations that sadly, maybe only a few miles apart, but for some, months have sort of intervened before they really had a chance to catch up. They get a chance to buy the raffle ticket and who knows, put 20 grand in their pocket, share it with me and Susan,
I am very ordinary when it comes to wealth.
Yeah, sir.
Because if it's not a bank that owns me, most times it's a credit union. But that's okay with me. But I say this, anybody who comes to that show tomorrow and doesn't find that it has been worth it, come back to me to collect your ticket money.
All right.
How's that?
Perfect. It's going to be worth it. And thank you for taking some time to share with us, not just to encourage and extend invitation, but to remind us of how important it is. All right. Enjoy
Thanks for having me.
It's an honor.
And I do appreciate it, and I hope to see you tomorrow.
God's willing.
God bless.
All right. Blessings to our listeners. When we come back from the news break, please rejoin us. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news.
Access.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
Applications are being accepted now for Island Heritage Insurance Company's charity drive. This year, the popular event is set for the 5th, 6th, and 7th of May. Island Heritage will donate $10,000 each to the local charities. Forms are available at charitydrive.ky. Placido Domingo has apologized for, quote, causing hurt to several women who have accused him of sexual harassment. The opera star resigned as general manager of the Los Angeles Opera after several allegations were made. A total of 20 women now accuse Domingo of harassment and inappropriate behavior. He denies all the claims. And India and the U.S. have signed defense, energy, and telecoms deals, but failed to reach a much-talked-about trade accord. U.S. President Donald Trump hailed a, quote, very productive visit, but said he would keep working with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi for a, quote, comprehensive trade deal. The U.S. is one of India's biggest trade partners, and the two hope the visit would mend a rift over tariffs. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Start getting your debt under control with a debt consolidation loan from Fidelity Bank. At Fidelity, your loan decision is quick with no runaround. Plus, with competitive interest rates and fees, we will help you reduce your monthly payments and get you back to living again. Don't let the burden of overwhelming debt tie you down this year. Call Fidelity today and let's make it happen with a Fidelity Bank debt consolidation loan. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Your favorite family fun day is back. The 53rd Annual Agriculture Show at the Stacey Watler Agricultural Pavilion in Lower Valley. Theme, Agriculture for the Future. Ash Wednesday, February 26th. Family fun for everyone. Acrobatic show, cooking competitions, produce, plants, pony rides, petting zoo, rodeo, and so much more. Gates open at 7 a.m. with ample parking. General admission is only $10. Children ages 2 through 11, $5. And under 2 are free. Or buy your raffle ticket including entrance fee for a chance to win $20,000 and so much more. For more information, visit them on Facebook or 345agriculture@gmail.com. Put down your iPad and get back to your roots at the 53rd Annual Agricultural Show, February 26th in Lower Valley.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thanks again for joining us. And as we get into our next discussion, perhaps again on behalf of the former Agriculture Minister, Honorable D. Kurt Tibbetts, an invitation to come out tomorrow to the Agriculture Show. Bring the family, enjoy the fun, the fellowship, the festivities, but also to be enamored by, what this country produces from its soil, what our, commercial farmers, are avid backyard gardeners, and wide and sundry are producing within our shores. Now, it is truly a pleasure to welcome to the studio Mr. Dwayne Ebanks. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. What's amazing is, as I was sort of listening to Mr. Tibbetts share and thinking of our next discussion and sort of this next installation of our series, everything is interconnected. And in our history, it wasn't just the sustenance of what the backyard garden, it wasn't the idea that we farm because, it was necessary. But it was what it is in terms of that immediate connection. Mr. Tibbetts, as closing, he said, when he goes into his garden, his farm, his backyard, that reminds him, it connects him, it grounds him. And I thought, it is that Garden of Eden, that garden that reminds us, and so much for many of us.
Yeah, well, everything is connected in some way, and a lot of our former members of the Legislative Assembly were farmers, not only backyard farms, but some of them operated or farmed big areas, especially in the North Side area and even in the West Bay area and East End.
And to think about it, we look. I was just trying to think of the older maps of Cayman where the initial roads were coming through before we had these. And I say this carefully because I don't want people to I don't want to misconstrue the comment. Before we had these wide, highways of multiple lanes, for some of us, we probably find it difficult to realize that it was less than 40 years ago that accessibility from, say, East End to Georgetown or West Bay even to Georgetown, for some, it wasn't as easy as we find it today.
No, you go back 40 years and, you had people walking the West Bay Road 5-6 days a week, from West Bay to Georgetown to West Bay.
And to think of two things, some of us, it may be your parents, some it may be your grandparents and the like, who talk about getting onto their bicycles, riding the bicycle through boggy sand, as it were. Perhaps to get gravel, perhaps to get things from town, the provisions and the like. Some even can recall, it was a catboat that I took into town to sell, or I went to collect to bring back. Now, for me, that would sound like an idyllic setting. You're going off the West Coast and you're up. But wait a minute, that was work. That was an arduous task.
Well, it was plenty of work because you might go in, you might leave West Bay and go into Georgetown with a nice wind, and you get up there and spend an hour and a half in Georgetown doing what you got to do, and get back aboard, and there was no wind.
No wind.
And when you look down there from the dock area there, or where the old bakery was, and that's a long, long way.
That's a long, long way. And no wind.
No wind.
Not getting in the way, right?
No.
And I think that's why I like with the series that you have started. It's not just the political in terms of the elected, but it's the political in terms of the societal approach to what inform policies in a sense, and how almost we have either consciously opted to forget about it, or we're neglectful, or maybe it's now been perhaps repeated in a way that we don't reflect on it, we don't recognize it. And it's not to change the narrative, it's to be reminded of the story.
Yeah, well, I think sometimes I'm not sure whether ironic is the right word to use here, but this series and this program on Friday will be the second program in the 3-program series that we were doing on the path to the first constitution, Cayman Islands' first constitution, 1959, Cayman Islands, politics and governance. And it's ironic that this week, we've already kind of taken you from the beginning to the path of where we got our first constitution. And of course, this program on Friday will deal with the beginning or the growth of, however you want to put it, of political parties. And if you look at the landscape today, I think you'll hear a lot of reflections in that program on Friday from the people who were looking back at that time, and this is 40 years ago, and thinking of political parties and all that all that they bring or all that they don't bring, and I think it will be quite a reflection, and we will have some studio guests who will be quite capable of reflecting backward and reflecting forward, or looking forward and thinking of they're giving their own perspective on what we're trying to do, because and this has been said, repeated over and over and over again. We have not been singing our song. We've let other songs come in and drown it out. And I think it's time that we start singing our song. And it's a good song. It's got some good melodies. And, it's got some high notes that's too low, or some low notes that's too high. But it has to be sung, and hopefully that 40, 50 years from now, somebody sitting somewhere could look back on these reflections and say, hey, we did learn from what they were talking about back then, as same as we can from what the folks back 40, 50 years ago was talking about, looking forward to plan the best path.
Well, you've done all the heavy lifting for the shows, without question, and I'm keen to listen again on Friday as I learn, but in trying to make sure that I do some preparation and not just come prepared but be able to contribute. Two things have been striking. I noticed it in our last discussions, but I'm anxious to look at it again this time. Just two things of the many. One is the increasing amount of commentary from people, not just younger folks, say, under 60, but, young at heart, above 60, who are saying, wait a minute, we talk about our first constitution in 1959 or whatever it is, but wait a minute, what about 1831? That probably was the semblance of the first sort of constitutional, okay, it wasn't written, it wasn't this, it wasn't that, it was whichever, right? And then secondly, the notion that there are some proposed constitutional changes, a name change here, this, that, and the next thing, and all of the other little things that have been unfolding, say, since later two-ish, Sir Frederick Smith and Wallace then, when they first came on as the first constitutional commissioners. And then we fast forward to today, to the formalization of the political parties within our 2009 constitution, the adoption of certain protocols, the recognition even of certain things that should accrue to certain offices and the like. And I'm thinking that as a maturing democracy, people who are saying, wait a minute, we may not necessarily be looking at independence in terms of that sense, but we certainly want, say it cautiously and, easily, we certainly want some more autonomy. I want to maybe invite you to expound that slightly, but we do have a caller joining us, as we have an excellent chance to speak to Mr. Loxley Banks as we preview, the next installation of this GI Retro Talk Today series coming up Friday. But let's go to our phone, sir. Good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sterling.
Good afternoon, ma'am. How are you today?
And to the guest you have there with you.
Yes, Mr. Loxley Banks. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, well, he's a man that I admire very much and have great respect for.
Yes, ma'am. Likewise.
I think that a lot of people on Grand Cayman, at least I would say about 70 or 80 years ago when I was a little girl, I don't think anybody in Cayman had ever used the word agriculture. But let me tell you something, Mr. Sterling and your guest.
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody that I knew about had what they called a ground. And the ground was the place where you grew your potato, your cassava, your cocoa. You don't even hear about cocoas nowadays. And if you didn't grow those things, or some family member or neighbor that knew you and liked you very much, when you got fish, or if you were lucky enough to have money to buy a little piece of meat, you would have starved. I remember my father had a huge platen-so basket. It was so big he could put my brother in it when he would go to his ground. And nowadays, all you can hear about is, well, doing a little backyard, few little things going in your backyard and going out to the market and buying what other people have grown. But in those days, if you didn't grow some food in your ground to go along with your fish, because most men had a fish pot or they had a little boat or skiff and they had the fish. But if you had no bread time to go with it, what kind of a dinner would that be? So, this word agriculture, I don't think I heard that word until maybe I was in high school. And if God is kind to me, in September I will be 93.
Amen.
So just figure that out. And I thank you all for listening to me. And may God bless all of you in 2020. Every member of your family, leaving out not one. God loves us all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, too, Mom. God bless to you and to yours. The language, well, Mr. Loxley.
Yeah, well, I think I think the point she was making is a very valid one. That she'll be 93 pretty soon, and back in her day, and even come 40, 50 years forward, most families did keep it ground, and the young folks at that point at least got a little bird's eye view of what it was all about, But nowadays, I don't think that's happening. Therefore, and the discussion yesterday, I think, on this program was about that. Unless we can get a viable, a good, solid agricultural, educational program within the schools, starting with the elementary schools, we're going to just be falling backward all the time, because 68 years ago, when I was in the one or all class town hall school, we had an element of agriculture right where the John Cumber School, the land that the John Cumber School sits on now.
Yeah.
We had a nice little ground down there, and as I recall, we grew crops of turnips that you would not believe, and we had tomatoes, and
I understand beans as well.
Yes, a lot of things, and I think it was either 2 evenings or 2 afternoons a week, or it might have been 3, but that was part of the curriculum, if you want to call it that way. I never heard that word used back in those days till later. But that was part of what we did. We went down into this, and it was hot. Oh, I never forget. Hot. Went down, and it was weeded, and we watered, and I think back there's about a watering incident. I won't tell it there, but being 12, 13, 14 years old, you're always looking for some mischief.
But that's, as you share that, and I was looking back and trying to pick from some of the things available and trying to recall conversations, and given that Wednesday is sort of the agriculture show in and of what Wednesday represents on the religious calendar and otherwise. But I saw a couple of things. Maybe I was looking for connections. Maybe I was trying to draw connections. The political landscape being intertwined to a great extent with farming, or however we term that. And 2 things again jumped at me. The idea that, one, a lot of our arable land, many would say, well, we don't have much, but whatever we have is being put to use in other avenues. And then secondly, a lot of what we would see as the local sort of produce. I don't say this to disrespect anybody, but it is important that we consider it. If it's an issue, we address it. Take 2 things. The local callaloo, the small stem, and that is bitter. Where is that? Go to the cantaloupe, the watermelon, even the mangoes, the things that we knew to be more readily available, is now being perhaps replaced by other things. Not because they're better, right?
Well, yeah, I think the increased population is infringing on a lot of that. Lands that had mango trees, guava trees, orange trees, and plum trees, and all this kind of that. I remember growing up, there are concrete structures there now. So, and they're not manufacturing any more land here in Cayman.
Right.
And if it's going to all be taken up by concrete structure,
right,
then, and on the political side, I guess, there probably needs to be more of an effort, a concentrated effort on making sure that there's a balance with all of this.
Right. And that's the second thing I was looking at. That political landscape back then, we may say, was out of necessity that we did this or didn't do that. Then we fast forward to today, right now. Let's say we have a development. I can call it a subdivision. People might want to call it something else to make it sound even fancier. And then people, our own people who have come here and have become us and have acclimated and made this, may, for whatever reason, decide we're going to gate this community, only whichever. And we're not just developing arable land, but we're within there putting in place certain conditions, covenants, whatever we want to call it. And it may make it increasingly difficult, if not next to impossible, for that person to just have a little backyard thing. Because, we specified that you must have this and not that. If those things are transpiring, are we not only displacing what may have been the local cultural practices, but are we equally putting ourselves at a great disadvantage in terms of food security? Just questions, and will that inform the political landscape relative to a national agriculture policy? Again, just questions.
Yeah, well, I think they're all connected and they're all tied together, somewhere along the line. And if we don't try to strike a good balance with all of this, then, we're just going to be falling backwards all the time. And I don't think that the balance that it's perceived that we should be striking is being pursued agile enough to really make a difference in the future. I mean, at one time, the whole agricultural push kind of fell by the wayside. I think probably between 1974, 75, and no, it would have been a little later than that. Probably in the early 80s, I think there was maybe 1 or 2 years that there was no agricultural show. There was no agricultural show. And when the new government took over in 1984, that was one of the first things that Mr. Sarvassel did, because he, on his portfolio, he had, I think, development and
natural resources.
Yeah, and I think, hopefully, I believe I'm right about this, that there had been no agricultural show the year before that, and maybe two or 3 years before, and that was one of the first things that he jumped on. In fact, I think it wasn't probably more than 2 or 3 days after he took official office, he called me and said, I want you to come over, I want to talk with you. And that was what he wanted to know whether Radio Cayman would support this quick push to get the agricultural thing back rolling. I said, well, certainly, definitely, because at that time, the show was still being held at the what's now cricket grounds.
It's called agricultural grounds, right?
Yeah, right, agricultural grounds.
Yeah,
and we initiated a program with the help of Dr. Jackman. What we call agriculture, and we had dealt with agriculture with a weekly 15-minute program that we had Dr. Jackman and some of the other folks in agriculture come in, and we gave tips and talked about what could be grown, and remembering from what Dr. Jackman was exposing or expounding on those days, there's a lot of crops that could be grown here in Cayman that's non-existent.
And this is why I think on Friday's discussion, we look at the political landscape in terms of our constitution, but for me, anyway, it's easy to make the connection between the agriculture, the sustainability, the food security, the political will, and the need for us as a government, elected and appointed, as a society, civil and otherwise, to say, well, what is the importance of this and why? Just like, again, it's just me thinking, I trust people don't misunderstand, I don't certainly misrepresent, but we take our children who may have an interest in the sciences, they may want to go into the finance and law and all the other things, and say, hey, this thing that is all encompassing as a word of agriculture, don't dismiss it. Now, sadly, as the population increase, you say we're not growing, much land, important, but neither are we doing it in terms of the Caymanian, as it were. So it's going to take a while to grow.
Yeah, and I think another aspect that just popped to my mind is that I think the folks who were doing the farming back in those days, they were more agile and working areas that might not you think might not produce anything, but going in there and trying. I mean, a lot of that property along 7 Mile Beach on the North Sound coast were grounds producing a lot of food stuff.
Yep.
And if you take a tour along, I haven't done it in a little while, but you can go to Morgan's Harbor and look up there. All what you see is concrete now.
Well, it is, I think, it should be so much easier for us, given the relatively small size, the relatively little population that we have, to be able to, one, identify the challenges. We don't need to call them problems, and to put forward possible ways to address them. But maybe we're not willing. Maybe we're not wanting the responsibility nor the accountability. I'm not sure.
Well, I think there's been some effort put in developing agriculture here in Cayman Islands over the years, and or thanks to those who made that effort. But you think back to 1977, 78, the island was almost, I would think, had a supply of eggs that supplied the whole populace. I would say at least 85% of the populace. Now, I would believe that has fallen back probably not more than 18%, 18 to 28% at this time. Why did it fall back? Why couldn't it be maintained?
Well, there are a number of questions. Sometimes
in the same way with plantains.
Yep.
And I call his name Johnny Boffell.
Mr. Johnny
carved a farm out of morass.
And look what that morass is now going to be in short order.
Yes. And he produced plantains, all of the banana crops. I think he was almost supplying the whole island, and same way with eggs.
Yeah. You see, there's a lot that I think has been ignored, and a lot that unfortunately has been devalued and disrespected. People can take that on board and they can be offended by it. It's not the intent. But if you look in the mirror and say that I need a shave, that's the truth.
Yeah.
You choose not to or not, that's up to you.
Yeah, well, I think, you hear the word development. But if you look at where the emphasis on development has been, you see concrete. You don't see plantain plots, or you don't see banana plots as much as you should, or you don't see the other crops that could be grown as citrus. Many years ago, there was a lot of citrus that was grown in Cayman.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Loxley, I not only enjoy your company on air publicly whenever you're in the studio and you share a comment, I'm anxious and eagerly anticipating our discussion Friday. Thanks for doing all the heavy lifting. I mean, I see the muscles are bulging. So I hope Gerald has been helpful to you. Friday, we got the show. You're going to have, as usual, an excellent presentation. So all excited, man. Thanks for including me.
Yes, and we'll be talking about the development of political parties and politics, Cayman Islands politics and governance. And
if I wasn't so, I would be cheeky and mischievous and say, yep, and I'll announce my political party. But I'm not going to do that. It's not about that.
Well, it'll probably be under the grape tree by 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Okay, Friday, historical context. Mr. Loxley with his hey, thank you. CI Retro talk today. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Miss Susan. Miss Susan. Quick call. We had a quick call, sir. I do apologize.
Okay.
Thank you to our listeners for being so gracious. Good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon again, Mr. Sterling.
Good afternoon again, ma'am. Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry to call back the second time. I want to ask you and Mr. Laughlin, whoever else is there with you, when was the last time either one of you ate a Cayman sweet potato? Susan can't remember last time she ate one. Let me tell you, I had 2 Cayman sweet potatoes the other day. They had no spots, and to say that they were delicious is an understatement. And to think we spend money to bring in shipments of cheap yams. That's all I wanted to say. God bless you all. Thank you very much.
God bless.
In Adelaide, I wonder how many people out there have had a chalamello lately.
We're going to have this conversation. I'm going to ask a few others because just like I've talked about earlier, the call Lou and the like, those are the too many times we're missing certain things. But anyway, Friday. All right.
CI Retro talk today.
Yes.
12:15.
All right. Thank you. And now we're going to pause, take a break. What is coming up next? Well, I know. Do you? You want to find out? Well, join us after the break.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation,
Start
and
getting your
relaxation.
debt under control with a debt consolidation loan from Fidelity Bank. At Fidelity, your loan decision is quick with no runaround. Plus, with competitive interest rates and fees, we will help you reduce your monthly payments and get you back to living again. Don't let the burden of overwhelming debt tie you down this year. Call Fidelity today and let's make it happen with a Fidelity Bank debt consolidation loan. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Your Radio Cayman 6 p.m. news, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Logic. Your life connected.
If your business is over here, but your customers are over here, adding more yellow to your business will bring you both right here. With everyone searching yellows, print, online, and mobile app, getting your business noticed is easier than ever. Book your consultation today at findyellow.com.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. And, this is another opportunity for us to be able to continue our partnership with the Cayman Islands Health Services Authority, and a chance to remind us of the importance that as we invest in our health, what we're truly see and treasure the wealth that's coming there, and the growing partnership with our service clubs this time, the Rotary. Again, Narzelle Tagil, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for coming along. And as you wear multiple hats today, we had a chance to share, right?
Good afternoon, Sterling. Good afternoon, K-Man.
And Ms. Winsome, as a pharmacist, as the different roles you've assumed, but as a diabetes educator, to be able to have had you on numerous occasions join us in the studio, talk about health and well-being, talk about some of the things that we can so easily do that would translate not just immediately, but consistently and down the road, continually, to improve our health, our outlook. For some of us, if we employed them, we start to even look a little bit better. I mean, people start to notice. So true, huh?
Yes.
All right.
It's good to be here with you again, Sterling.
Thank you. It is a pleasure to have you guys here, and I keep sharing increasingly the importance of us looking at our health as individuals, as family, perhaps even as corporate entities, developing wellness programs within their employees, so that we start to value not just exercise but nutrition, but equally as service clubs and as wider sort of civil society. Our churches are doing it, our PTAs are doing it, not just for the nutritional benefits of having proper meals for our children at schools, but to be able to be, what do they say, not just add life to your years, but years to your life. Mm-hmm. Now, Narzelle, as I get us, positioned and properly acclimated to this studio, the ever-changing, environments that we have here at Radio Cayman, see how good things improve each time you return?
I know. This looks so advanced. I love the studio. It's beautiful.
Yeah, Miss Susan was spending all night last night preparing because she knew you were coming. So she... I want you... I was going to do it this way, but I'm going to ask you to do it for us because I think it would allow her as she makes her maiden voyage with us for the first time. Your colleague to your left. It is... Please feel welcome, and as we include you into us, as I was sharing prior to entering the studio, for me anyway, it's always, without exception, always a privilege to be able to come up to the HSA, whether I'm visiting somebody, whether I need to do something for myself or for others, to not just see people who have a wonderful disposition in hospital and smiling, and you think you're at a resort as opposed to a healthcare facility, but the competence. And when you come into places like the pharmacy that are busy, or you go into the ER where it's expected, it is E&E, it is something that is happening there. And yet people make you feel, hang on a second, you're the most important person, there are other things happening, but what is it now? And you share. Narzelle?
Yes.
Would you do the honors and introduce your colleague, or do
I will.
Okay, go ahead.
Most definitely. We have today Miss Milka Pamphil. She's an emergency room nurse, and she's a staunch supporter of Rotary. Opening her wings, or trying to get her spread her wings to be more involved in Rotary and its initiatives. So Milka is here. She's very supportive, as I've said, and she will be giving us a little pointers now and then. But welcome, Milka.
All right. Welcome. And rest. Trust me, in here, it's warm and inviting and relaxing. As soon as I leave, it'll get that way. So don't worry. We'll come back to that. Ms. Winsome, when we think of sort of looking at our health and well-being, and I won't openly reflect and recall some of the things that you share with us about, your own journey, but as a healthcare professional, I think some of us sometimes take for granted the fact that, we're in that sector, we know all these things, so therefore we're doing all these things that are beneficial to our health. I'm reminded of, my friends who are mechanics or plumbers or, all the other good experience, intelligent, ambitious people who say, we're the last ones to look after our cars and our houses because we're busy doing it for everybody else. Is that the case with everything?
That is so true. I find a lot of health professionals are just so busy and so involved in looking after patients that many times that their health is the last to be looked at. I found that in many of the health professionals, you know. So healthcare is for all, you know, not just the providers, because we are the ones that should lead by example, you know. So this talk on diabetes, as we'll be speaking about today, is really for the entire community, including health professionals. And I really would want to really implore health professionals to really take care of themselves as well, because too often they get burnt out, and you know, and and they have issues of health themselves. So this is for everyone.
Indeed. No, Nurse Alta, as not just a nurse in the ER, as a diabetes educator, as a member of Rotary Central and the like. Over the years, we've had you and your Rotarians come in to share. You share with us the partnership, not just with HSA, but if I may, HSA in particular. And you bring together the various different professionals, but your health initiatives, and in especially the one for diabetes, the screenings that you do.
Yes.
Having this opportunity, we're mindful that this is accessible to all of us where we are. We don't need to make an appointment. We don't need to wait in a time. You sort of, hopefully this isn't said improperly. Many times we say, well, if, Muhammad can't go to the mountain can come to Muhammad, and whichever.
Exactly.
But you're making it all for all of us.
Taking it to them.
Yeah.
Okay, Sterling, when you have something, you're so excited about something, you want to share it as quickly as possible. Well, that's the case right now. But before I do that, I'd like to state that Mrs. Jefferson Winsome, she is trained as certified diabetes educator. So let's note that she is a certified diabetes educator. There are approximately 60 to 70 certified diabetes educators in the Caribbean, and Miss Winsome is one of those. Because of this, Rotary Central already, we tend to bite off a lot. Once we see a need, we go after it like a pit bull. So we just seen that there are 60 to 70 diabetes educators in the Caribbean, and having had our health screenings over the past 9 years now, because 7th of March will be our 9th annual island-wide health screening. We wanted to contribute to this. So this year we've made it the biggest yet. There are two things that Rotary Central will be doing the week of the 3rd through to the 7th. One, we'll be offering a Caribbean certified diabetes educators course, part 1, at the Health Services Authority. It's fully funded by Rotary, and we're flying in well-known, seasoned, well-respected diabetes educator, Mrs. Hunt. Andrea Hunt. She's done this for us in the past. Rotary Central has offered a health screening in the past. In 2012, we had 20 participants. This year, we're going for 30 participants. Wow. And the participants who are invited, this is a good part, are from 10 countries, including our own locals. So because we are in a district, Rotary Central is in a district. It's called District 7020. It has a total of 10 countries, 11 countries, and 80 clubs. Wow. Yes. So knowing that we're in this district and we need to share this need to treat diabetes, early identification of diabetes. We invited members from the 10 countries to come over to Cayman, fly over, and join our course, which is being done by Rotary Central. This all started, though, from our district governor, Governor Maduro. Mm-hmm. She is the one, is a governor, I'm trying to break it down, of the 10 countries. And one of the projects that she proposed is that Rotarians, the clubs, do form a program that would aid in the early identification of diabetes, aid in the early treatment. And that's definitely what Rotary Central has been doing over the past years. So now we have beefed it up by inviting members from other countries. And I'm so happy to be here today because I would like to invite those from the private sector to please call me if they want to be a part of the course. We're almost full, but I held on some spots so that they can be participants of this course also.
And it's going to be March 4th and 5th.
March 4th and 5th. My number is 924-4204. That's 924-4204. Or Zeltagale at yahoo.com. That's ZELTAGAYLE.
Wow. All right. So, Ms. Susan, we'll pause quickly for a short break. We'll come back with continued discussion. And I think this is another amazing thing that is available to us. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Imagine if we all practice safe driving. Imagine if we all refuse single-use plastic. Imagine if we all turned off lights when not in use. We can all do our part in making our Cayman Islands safer, cleaner, and greener. Together, we can achieve. Visit gov.ky/safer, cleaner, greener to learn more.
Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location. ValueMed on Walkers Road or Town. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
Join the Radio Cayman team tomorrow, Ash Wednesday, February 26th, for the 53rd Annual Agriculture Show, live from the Stacey Watler Pavilion in Lower Valley. Live coverage will begin at 9 a.m. Radio Cayman's Agriculture Show broadcast will be brought to you by the Water Authority, Grape Tree Cafe, A.L. Thompson, Cayman Insurance Center, Pure Art, Foster's, Peskill, South Coast Bar and Grill, Coca-Cola, and Edie's Decor.
Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international. Turning to international news. Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Spring is in the air at Edie's Decor, and no better time to freshen up your home for 2020. Discounted wood look porcelain tiles, marked down extra large tiles, 50% off selected items, and prices as low as $1.32 per square foot. Exterior, bathroom, and kitchen. Edie's has your home makeover covered. Edie's Decor on Eastern Avenue. February tile blowout. 2 days only, Friday 8 to 5, and Saturday open until 4.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thank you for joining us and in continuing our partnership with the Community Health Services Authority. Get a chance to focus on education, diabetes education in particular, and sort of in conjunction with Rotary Central now. Certified diabetes educator, pharmacist, Ms. Vincent Jefferson. Thanks again for coming on board and sharing. And your colleagues, but without question, someone who I think our fellow Rotarians always say she's full of energy, Nurse Elta Gale.
Yes.
But she's also enthusiastic. And so she brings along her colleagues, sort of initiates them and invites them and involves them in her Rotarian endeavors.
But this is what it's supposed to be, and Rotary's motto is service
above self.
Yes, you know that. So
I have some friends up until today. They'll call me their friend who are Rotarian. So we'll see what happens after today.
You're a very good supporter of Rotary Central, and I thank you.
Well, you're most welcome. But I support simply because I see great things happening with so many of our members of our society, and they serve in various clubs. If we can help, provide a platform for that information to get out, to invite the public to avail themselves and to be healthy, you know what? It's an honor. Genuinely is, right, Mr. Tom?
Yeah. Especially like how diabetes is so prevalent. Not only prevalent in the Cayman Islands, it's prevalent in the Caribbean. And it's something that is usually overlooked. Some persons will say, I have a touch of sugar, it's no big deal, but it's when the complications step in with the blindness and the kidney failure that it gets people's attention. So I really applaud Rotary for putting on these screenings because they are well needed in the society. When persons can identify that they actually have diabetes and they can get counsel to say, hey, this thing is really something that can be managed and controlled, and the complications can be prevented if you start doing something about it early.
Something that I've always sort of wondered, in this, we'll talk about it in respect to diabetes, but just generally speaking, it would have a concern that the more we hear something repeated, instead of it sinking in and we're taking it to heart and using it to our benefit, I heard that before. But did we hear it? Did we listen? Did we understand? Did we engage? And like diabetes, how many types? Type 1, type 2. Well, how many of us could quickly define which is which? And is there another type? And is there, how do you recognize the signs and symptoms? And I'm wondering if it's like everything else, In math, we might be able to recall the quadratic equation, but Nurse Delta is like, I know that, I have that. Let me check my app. But is that a challenge that we have that more and more? And Nurse Milka, anytime you want to jump in, feel free. But I'm wondering if that is one of the challenges that we're facing. We're providing these avenues, but we're not taking on board the information, and we're not putting it to the proper use, and we're not deploying it within our dietary sort of considerations. And are we just, that's just another thing and we have to deal with it? Well, maybe not. Just a thought. The things we think about when we think about the things we think about.
But what I just like any other form of education, there persons learn by various ways, and what might work for you, Sterling, might not work for Winsome or Milka. That's one of the things by being an educator. You have to know how to approach each individual, because even though it's the same thing you're teaching them, it's just different because of their culture, their level of understanding, their likes, their dislikes, their beliefs, etc. So that's one of the reasons why it's so important to have educators, because they would have done the course, they would have done so many hours of teaching, and doing the course itself, they've just like any teacher in a high school or primary school who go through the educational system and or university, they have to learn. It's the same thing, knowing what tacks to take, which way to approach it. So you can't just have one person and say, you have a class and this is it and that's that.
For the course, then, if I could ask, I know you recognize that 10 other countries, including, I think, from what you shared initially, some of the I guess they're still current overseas territories. The political landscape keeps changing, so I don't know what to call them anymore. But anyway, colonies, former and present, and let me not have no more fun at people's expense.
But what I can do, Sterling, I'll list the names of countries who
alphabetically. You can do that for us.
Oh my
Come on.
All right. Anguilla, British Virgin Islands, persons from Haiti, Jamaica, St. Barth, St. Martin, and St. Martin. What's the difference in the pronunciation? I've always
Dutch
wondered.
and French.
Okay, so we have Marten, and we have St. Martin.
Okay.
And the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, U.S. Virgin Islands, and we here at the Cayman Islands. So those are the 11 countries combined. So that's how I have invited persons from 10 countries, and up until this morning, a physician from the Bahamas confirmed. One of the things, too, that Rotary Central is doing is offering free accommodation for these persons, free transportation, and free meals while they're here. As I said, Rotary Central is like a pit bull. When they see a need, they're going to bite it or not. They're not going to finish until that need is dealt with. We are very committed. So sometimes you'll have 5 different projects running at the same day, but they're getting done.
Well, the thing is, when we look at diabetes in particular, and from what I understand from our medical professionals, there's a particular dynamic in terms of ethnicity and the like. Maybe there's a particular dynamic relation to our cultural preferences when it comes to food choices. There may be misconceptions and perceptions, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, persons who are from African descent and Asians, Indians, Chinese, Filipinos, they are at the highest risk of diabetes as opposed to Caucasians. Just like, there are some medical conditions that persons are more predisposed to. And the thing about it is that not only hereditarily that these ethnic groups are at higher risk of diabetes, but also included in the diet a lot of persons of African descent. They like to consume a lot of carbohydrates. And some persons do not link the consumption of a lot of carbohydrates, yam, green bananas, rice, potato salad, macaroni and cheese.
Making me hungry now.
They do not associate the consumption of many carbohydrates or starches, or some people the same thing. They do not associate it with diabetes. Some persons associate it with eating a lot of sweets and a lot of pastry and things that are sweet. But the carbohydrates do break down into sugar in the bloodstream. And some persons from the Asian descent, they consume a lot of rice, especially white rice. I am very familiar with even with the Filipinos, that they will even have rice for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and some persons they're not correlating. There's not a relationship between.
Okay. So our dietary selections.
Culture.
When we come back then from our break, could we ask a number of things? And with great respect to all who may know this, they could pass the next test on diabetes education to those of us who are kind of familiar. Present it so that we keep it to the fore of our minds for our own health, but as an example to our children, to our siblings, spouses, co-workers, so that we start to maybe be a little more conscious with our food selections. Now, I was trying to remember a word. Okay, there's Elton.
Okay, before you go to your break.
Yes, Mom.
I just wanted to close off on the course that will be offered, the Caribbean Certified Diabetes Educators course. Now it's being held 4th and 5th of May. It's being held for doctors, pharmacists, and nurses because of the skill level that's required and the course contents. So if you're a physician, a nurse, or pharmacist, you're most welcome, and you have my contact number. At the end of the 2-day course, it will end in a pinning ceremony and presentation ceremony, or health minister, the Honorable Dwayne Seymour, will be our guest of honor and will be performing the pinning. So I do thank him very much for accepting this, because he sees the need.
Mm-hmm.
So that's about all I will have to say on air right now in regards to
the course.
Well,
you answered the question I was going to ask you to ask after the break, but
I have others.
You got it. All right. Let's pause. Let's take a break. When we come back, more talk today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio K-Man.
It's only 2 species that we have here on Iowa.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
For today's biggest news.
Access.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team. Today's biggest news.
Police issue a fresh appeal to witnesses as they continue to investigate an assault that took place at Coral Beach on Friday. The parties involved were said to be present between 8:30 p.m. and 12:30 a.m. Police are asking anyone who is present to call them on 916-3277. In the meantime, the Speaker of the House, the Honorable Makiba Bush, has issued an apology for his involvement. A hotel in Tenerife in Spain's Canary Islands has been locked down after a visiting Italian doctor tested positive for coronavirus. Hundreds of guests at the hotel were initially told to stay in their rooms as medical tests were carried out. The doctor is reportedly from the Lombardy region, where Italian authorities are battling an outbreak. And accusers of Harvey Weinstein have welcomed the guilty verdicts in the rape and sexual assault case against the former Hollywood mogul. Actress Rose McGowan told the BBC, quote, "This is a great day," while others said the ruling brought hope to victims that their voices would be heard. The 67-year-old was convicted in New York of third-degree rape and first-degree criminal sexual act. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Spring is in the air at Edie's Decor, and no better time to freshen up your home for 2020. Discounted wood-look porcelain tiles, marked down extra large tiles, 50% off selected items, and prices as low as $1.32 per square foot. Exterior, bathroom, and kitchen. Edie's has your home makeover covered. Edie's Decor on Eastern Avenue. February tile blowout. 2 days only, Friday 8 to 5, and Saturday open until 4.
Rotary Club Central, in association with the Cayman Islands Health Services Authority, HSA, present Health Check 2020. Free health check, free mini medical consultation, diabetes, hypertension, and much, much more. Saturday, March 7, 10 a.m. through 2 p.m. Nurses, doctors, Rotarians in service to you. The Rotary Health Check 2020 at A.L. Thompson's, Foster's Airport and Countryside, Foster's Republics, and Camana Bay. Costs you less. And Hurley's Supermarket. You may save your life. Rotary Central Health Check 2020. Your life, your health. Rotary, connecting the world.
Preventing dengue is as simple as preventing mosquito bites. Use a mosquito repellent, wear protective clothing, and stay indoors during early dawn and dusk when mosquitoes are most active. Control the places around you where mosquitoes breed. Remove stagnant water in outdoor and household settings. As a weekly habit, persons should change the water in vases, clear the water in saucers under potted plants, and ensure air conditioner drip trays are free of stagnant water. Outdoor objects capable of holding water should be kept empty and preferably disposed of or put into dry storage if not used. These include open bottles and tins, watering cans, buckets, empty paint tins, and old vehicle tires. Do your part to control the spread of dengue. The dengue virus is an infectious disease transmitted through mosquito bites. Symptoms may come on as early as 4 days or as late as 3 weeks following an infection. There is no vaccine or specific medication to treat dengue. Symptoms of dengue include high fever, headache, pain behind the eyes, joint and muscle pain, and rash. If persons have any of these symptoms, they should go to the nearest health center or hospital. It is advised to drink lots of liquids and avoid medication that contains aspirin.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. And as we continue our partnership with the Health Services Authority, now in conjunction with Rotary Central, we talk about diabetes and diabetes education. Nurse Zelta Gale, yeah, I guess multiple hats, nurse within the HSA, but then a champion at Rotary Central as well. And then Smithson Jefferson. It's, for me, it's inspiring and encouraging, but it's also reminds us of how we have this incredible resource, within a relatively small community. To hear about opportunities to bring 10 other jurisdictions on shore for a very important undertaking, but for the populace itself to benefit from it. Being a pharmacist, but a certified diabetes educator in and of itself, it's encouraging, but it's also welcoming. So you've got it, right?
Right. I think it's really such a wonderful thing. I have to repeat it as well again, where we have the screening that Rotary is making available to the community. Because as I mentioned, there are several persons in the community with diabetes that do not realize that they have diabetes. Because one of the symptoms of diabetes is frequent urination and extreme thirst. And persons are thinking that because I'm drinking too much water, why I am urinating frequently, and not realizing that it's the other way around, where the body is really trying to talk to you to say, hey, there's too much sugar in the blood, and so you're urinating very frequently, and as a result of passing so much water, that the body becomes extremely thirsty, and so a lot of the symptoms are overlooked. In many cases, when persons have real extreme symptoms where they are actually fainting, extreme fatigue that can accompany diabetes, or they're having some sharp pains like pins and needles in their hands, or their vision is so blurred, that it drives them to the hospital, that they realize that they have diabetes and they've had it for a while.
All right. I want to ask about that, and not to alarm people, but if I can, Zelta, something that you shared repeatedly from the screenings, as Ms. Winsome shared, people have had these symptoms but ignored it. I'm working and I'm just thirsty, so I'm drinking a lot of water, and as a result, I'm having to go frequently, as opposed to, as you shared, it's not that way, it's the other way around. But the different sort of, diabetes type 1, type 2, what are they, and what is what?
Right. So type 1 diabetes is usually. It usually affects young children and adults. It's actually what we'll call an autoimmune condition, where the body turns against the cells that produce insulin and destroy them. And so those persons have to be on insulin for life. That's type 1. You also have gestational diabetes, where persons become pregnant, and during the course of the pregnancy, they develop diabetes. And in most cases, after the baby is born, that the sugar normalizes. But during the course of gestation, the pregnancy, they have to be on insulin to control blood sugar levels. Then you have secondary diabetes. Some persons, because of the medication that they're on, they can develop diabetes. But it's usually steroids such as prednisone, and usually people who have, certain conditions, rheumatoid arthritis or some other conditions, or even some persons on chemotherapy, based on the treatment, they can develop diabetes. But type 2 diabetes, that is the most prevalent one. over 90% of the population of persons with diabetes have type 2. And those persons who have it in their family, the genetic component, they are at a higher risk of getting type 2 diabetes, but diet also plays a role as well. So it's not just persons who have it in the family get type 2 diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
And also, so diet plays a role, and persons who are older also are at higher risk as well. And some persons don't realize is that when you eat late in the evening and then go to bed, that one of the things that can happen is that the fat accumulates around the waist. And when persons have a big waist, that they're at higher risk of something called insulin resistance, and makes them at a higher risk of getting diabetes, whether it's in their family or not, whether they're overweight or not.
So if I may then, let's ask about type 2 and then gestational, perhaps ask gestational. You were referencing it. An expectant mother who either pre-diabetic or has been diagnosed with gestational, is there any risk or any probability that the newborn would develop diabetes, and how do we counter that? How do we, help in that instance?
Well, it's not usually transferred to the baby, but the babies are usually born overweight. Big babies are usually born to persons who experience gestational diabetes that are untreated. So that baby that is overweight can, if later down the line, can be at higher risk of diabetes if that child continues to be overweight and eat the wrong foods. They're at higher risk of diabetes than another child.
Okay, and then type 2. If I didn't misunderstand, I want to make sure that we don't have any misconceptions, incorrect perceptions, and like genetic. We always hear, one is genetic, or you're genetically predisposed to it. Is that type 2 primarily?
Yeah, that's type 2 primarily. Yeah.
And is either one or the other, type 1 or type 2, reversible? If you've been diagnosed with diabetes, is it reversible?
What I have found is that some persons, based on, okay, you can have somebody who gets diabetes who is type 2, right? And somehow they just get it. Some people talk about a touch of sugar. I want to explain that. It is a reality that some persons who get diabetes, that they get it, it affects them more greatly. Because if it is a situation where the pancreas is not producing enough insulin, as opposed to somebody who just experiences insulin resistance, and let me clarify both. With the insulin resistance, the insulin that your body would normally produce, the role of the insulin is to reduce the amount of sugar that is in the blood, right? It takes the sugar that is in the blood to the muscles for energy consumption. What happens in insulin resistance is that some persons produce insulin, but it is not effectively doing its job. That's insulin resistance. Some persons, when they have that, and they adopt a lifestyle modification, a lifestyle change, where they start to exercise and they make good choices of food and portion sizes, that those persons, it is possible for them to overcome insulin resistance. And just that and exercise can control their blood sugar. But some other persons, it is not just the insulin resistance, but the actual pancreas that is not producing enough insulin, so those persons have to be on medication.
Well, you've guided us where I would have asked you, because I think sometimes just in sort of preparing for today's discussion, I reached out to friends, primarily parents, because as parents, you you just want the very best for your child, and the more information you have, the more you want and the like. So I said, okay, our last discussion for the last hour is going to be on diabetes. What do you know? And those who either have it in their families or are concerned know a little bit more. But we can repeat certain things, but do we employ it within our lifestyle? So I wrote down a number of things, and I want to ask about carbohydrates, complex and simple. And we may go back to our health classes, and then I wanted to ask about diet and exercise, as you were just referencing in the lifestyle choices. So the carbohydrates, complex and simple. I remember that from school, but I don't know. Is there a real difference? What does it matter?
Right, there's a difference.
Right? So share with us, huh?
All right, the simple carbohydrates are usually foods that are made from white flour, right? They don't have the fiber, right? That includes white bread as opposed to whole wheat bread. The whole wheat bread is the one that has the fiber, and the fiber is really the thing that prevents the sugar from spiking. Right? Let me do another parallel as well. Irish potato, the flesh of the Irish potato does not contain any fiber, so it is a simple carbohydrate, whereas sweet potato contains the fiber. So the sweet potato is actually even better to consume because the fiber in the meal prevents the sugar from spiking after it is digested. The only way to eat the Irish potato that is more beneficial actually is with the skin, because the skin is the fiber.
How many people do that?
That prevents it from spiking.
Right. So I asked a friend, right? I must commend her. She's so amenable and she loves food. So I said, take two things: this sweet potato, right, from her ground, and then the Irish potato you buy in the supermarket, and prepare them like how you would, and feed it to the family. And they were willing to be guinea pigs. Now this is what she reported. So I asked her to do this because I wanted to ask you. I knew you were coming. And she said that the family member that ate the sweet potato, right, felt full. Oh, I can't eat all this food. And the one that ate the Irish potato, can I get some more?
Right.
Now, presumably they didn't know who was eating, well, somewhat, but is that true? That sweet potato, you don't eat as much with it and you feel heavy,
yes,
full.
Because what happens is that foods that contain the fiber, what the fiber does is that it gives a feeling of fullness and it slows down the digestive process.
Okay.
And so there is, especially if liquid water or something is consumed in the meal, the fiber will absorb it. So there's a feeling of fullness. So the digestive process is slowed, right? And the fiber also provides a feeling of fullness. And so that is why you don't even have the spiking of the sugar as well. And the same thing happens with white rice and brown rice as well. Right? The wheat, the fiber, gives a feeling of fullness and slows down the digestive process. So you don't have the spiking of the sugar after it's consumed.
See the little things you can do if you know what you're doing and you talk to people who do. All right.
Even with cassava, some people don't know that cassava, yam, cocoa, they are complex carbohydrates. The body takes a long time to break them down to sugar. And so they are better to consume.
All right. Another final break. And when we come back, we can talk about the screening and the like, Narcelta. And I'm hopeful that for those who knew this, it'll be a good reminder. For those that didn't, it'll be a chance to, become informed. Please join us after the break.
Hi, I am Dr. Lee, Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health. The Ministry and the Department of Public Health, along with our partners, are working hard to help protect residents from the novel coronavirus. Did you know the best way to help prevent infection is to avoid being exposed? So please, wash your hands frequently with soap and water, or use an alcohol-based sanitizer. Cover your noses and mouths when coughing or sneezing. And as best as possible, keep a good distance or avoid contact with anyone with symptoms of a respiratory infection. To read more about the public health's updates, please visit hsa.ky.
We invite you to tune in to the next presentation of CI Retro Talk Today on Friday, February the 28th at 12:15 p.m. on Radio Cayman. when we bring you the second in the 3-program series on the path to the Cayman Islands' first constitution in 1959, Cayman Islands politics and governance. This program will focus on the origins and development of political parties in the Cayman Islands and is being brought to you by the Ministry of Health, Environment, Housing and Culture. They are always working diligently to protect, promote and advance the sustainability of our health, environment, housing, culture, history and heritage, the knowledge of which is important to planning the path forward. That's CI Retro Talk Today on February the 28th at 12:15 p.m. on Radio Cayman. Be listening.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Can I send a request, please?
You don't really have to ask us. Just send a request.
This is a shout out to my ex.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us, and truly grateful for the Health Services Authority for allowing us to access, all of the excellent staff on a very regular basis. Today, one of our pharmacists over at HSA, a certified diabetes educator equally, Spencer Jefferson. Thank you for coming on board and for sharing.
Pleasure to be here.
No, it always has been a wonderful learning opportunity for us. And today, your colleague, but today she wears the hat as a Rotarian equally, Nurse Elta Gale, and she brought, her colleague in the ER. So this is encouraging, in our society. More of us are getting so. Some screenings are coming up. We want to invite you to come on again.
Screening is coming up, but it's a big screening.
Okay.
And as I said, I'm very excited, and I'm a bearer of great news. We'll be having our 9th annual island-wide health screening event. The locations will be, Milka will tell you.
Okay, it will be on Saturday the 7th of March from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And there will be 7 locations, which includes Foster's Airport, Foster's Camana Bay, Foster's Republics at West Bay, Foster's Countryside, E.L. Thompson's, Costules, and Hurley Supermarket.
So all the places we kind of find ourselves on a Saturday.
Yes, it's very busy. I know thousands of patrons pass through these establishments every day.
Well covered.
Yeah, and plus at A.L. Thompson's, we have A.L. Thompson's, but we're at the back and the front. So, and I really appreciate. Yes, I've really appreciated A.L. Thompson offering that to us too. He puts up nice little areas for us. I tell him all that's missing is the chandelier in it. But we will have the main entrance covered and the outdoors section of A.L. Thompson's covered. So it's going to be actually 8 different locations, and each location will be staffed by Rotarians, Rotaractors. Rotaractors, for those who do not know, are the younger people who are in the Rotary clubs. They're supported by the older Rotary clubs, and these are persons under 30. Nurses, doctors, emergency medical technicians, pharmacists, medical technicians, community volunteers. We have the business coordinators on the units who will also be assisting from health services. And what we will be screening for, we'll be screening for the cholesterol level, we'll be checking blood sugar level, blood pressure recording. We'll also be doing A1C check-in will be, that indicates a blood sugar range from 2 to 3 months. And so you don't have to be starving. If you come starving and think that you could pull one over on the doctor or the nurse or whomever by getting a low reading, this tells us what your blood sugar has been like over the past 2 to 3 months. So you can eat before you come. Please do not starve. We'll be also calculating your BMI. We'll be doing prospective blood donor recruitment, because many times people want to be blood donors, and Rotary Central is a staunch supporter of the blood bank, and we have been getting prospective donors. I remember one year we got 41 persons who signed up, which is great.
Yes,
so
really great.
This year I'm expecting more, because I've changed the questionnaire, which will be easier for them to sign up. Also, on-site physician consultations will be offered, so you have something related to what we're screening for, or if you have a condition that's irrelated, the doctor will be there and to answer your questions. We have had incidental findings of conditions that are not related to what we're screening, like tachycardia, like deep vein thrombosis, that's clot in the veins. You name it. People have been symptomatic based of their medications they're taking and have been sent to the emergency room, not only for high blood sugar or high blood pressure. They'll also be counseling by the diabetes resource clinicians and pharmacists. Those are the persons who would have just done the program 2 days prior. And we'll be recording the biometrics on a wallet-sized card for future use, so they can take that with them to their doctors. And we'll be distributing free health education literature. And plus, this is the part that I find quite challenging, but it's one of the part that really makes a successful health screening, is the follow-up calls that are made, the wellness calls, and also for advice. Persons who are found to be very high, who are sent to the emergency room, who were referred to their GP, their general practitioners. These persons, for me, I want to know what happens to them. Where are they? What's going on? How far have they reached? How comfortable or uncomfortable they are with their new diagnosis. So I personally call these persons, follow up, sometimes 50 calls, from time to time, and follow up or put them with someone, a nutritionist, tell them how they can get through to this, give them the diabetes clinic's number, things like that, where they'll meet Miss Winsome. And it's that completes a health screening event. It's not just saying your blood sugar is high, your blood pressure is high, your cholesterol is low, your cholesterol is high, you need to go to your doctor, blah, blah. For me, it's a completeness. It's how are you? How are things going? Okay, if that's not working for you, I'm going to call this number, make an appointment, go and do that. And that's what Rotary Central does.
So the 7th,
that's so important.
Yeah.
The follow-up is so important.
Yes.
For persons to understand fully as well. I'm happy that you have so many resource persons there. I have met a patient who thought that, after he took 1 month supply of the medication, that was it. That is, the diabetes would go away. It's good that you are following up patients, and because some patients, they don't really fully understand, even though they might be getting information.
Exactly.
But the follow-up and the one-on-one, will motivate them to actually go to the doctor and get the correct treatment that is required for them to have their blood sugars controlled and to prevent the complications. That is the bad part of diabetes. The complications.
That's why I'm glad that you allowed us to repeat some of this, so that hopefully it doesn't offend, but it sort of cements within our minds that we hear it, we listen, we take it on board, we hear it, and we remember something. Maybe we hear something again for the first time, as it were.
Yes, that's so true.
And Sterling, one of the things that I have proposed is that, as I said, the follow-up is key. And Rotary Central will be having 30 persons, medical professionals, nurses, pharmacists. They'll be taught, and they'll be eventually becoming certified diabetes educators. But in the interim, persons are there with diabetes. Persons will be identified at the screening locations, and they'll be told for the first time, if the A1C supports it, that, listen, you have diabetes.
Or even borderline as well.
Yeah,
pre-diabetes.
Exactly.
Yeah, pre-diabetes is a good catch.
So these persons, these resource clinicians, when they graduate, when they're pinned, after doing the first part, I would like to have them partner with one of these newly identified persons, do follow up, because those resource clinicians need hours. They need hours, and at the same time, these newly diagnosed persons who are so confused, they're just thrown into this abyss of diabetes. What do I eat? And they go on a starvation diet. The first response is. So with these newly taught resource clinicians, they will be partnering with one of these babies, so to speak, and help to guide them through that valley that they're just being thrown into.
Yes.
There you go.
So that will be done.
Well, what we'll do...
That is so needed.
We'll commit to this now.
Good.
Yeah, man. Have you back on following the pinning and be able to talk about that thing. So, Nazelta, final thoughts today?
Final thoughts, and the very good thing is that Rotary Central has also ascertained the services, the volunteer services of Mr. Charles Mattox. Mr. Charles Mattox is one of the recognized faces of the International Diabetes Federation. He's an actor, he's a filmmaker. He will be traveling here with his team, his crew, to film the event. And he's very supportive of diabetes. He's very supportive of the cancer societies. And by the way, Cancer Society, I will be reaching out to you for him. But he would like to be a supporter of Cayman and its diabetes initiatives, and also of the Cancer Society. He's, by the way, the nephew of the late Bob Marley. He's from the States, and he's had his shows on he's been on CNN, Dr. Oz. He's had his own show. He's a celebrity chef, and as I've said, he will be coming and co-hosting the event with Rotary Central.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Wisdom. Thank you. And hopefully you'll come back with us again. Because, one's hair isn't enough, right, Nurse Milka? So hopefully. Yes, of course, Nurse Alta. Anything for you. You know that.
Just 5 incy seconds. Okay. But another good news is that we have all the pharmacies in the Cayman Islands, will be offering 10% off all diabetes products. I cannot say medications, but diabetes products. So if you want Lancets, or that's things you stick yourself with, or the blood sugar machine, or etc., they will be on sale on March 7th as a show of support of Rotary Central's health screening. Next time I come back will be on the 3rd. I'll give you the list, and I'll have much more information and goody news. And plus, by the way, I said 5 seconds, make it 10. Dr. Eugene Foley, ophthalmologist, has donated 2 free screenings of the persons we've identified, and the other ophthalmologists out there, and the optometrists I will be approaching you for donation of screenings.
You heard it here first.
Thank you.
I just want to encourage everyone in the community to come out and get screened. It's better to know so that something can be done about it. So I will encourage you to come out and so that we can take care of your health and so to prevent any such complications. So come on out.
All right. Well, looking forward to having you back on again. And of course, Narzelta.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm so glad that you feel so comfortable and feel so welcome.
Thank
Whether
you.
you're here as HSA or Rotary.
You make me comfortable.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much.
So nurses and doctors, please, you could contact me, zeltagale@yahoo.com or 924-4204 if you want to be a part of the health screening also.
All right.
924-4204.
Call before 9 p.m.
Mm.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah,
You're most welcome.
thank you so much, Sterling.
And thanks, Ms. Susan, for giving us a few extra minutes. We truly value the partnership
Bless
with
her.
the health services. Well, she's amazing, you know.
She's lovely.
I mean, just incredible.
She's
tomorrow
lovely.
is Ash Wednesday. We're not going to have a formal talk to the program. We are at the agriculture show, right, Ms. Susan? Yeah, our style has to work. You know, when you guys are relaxing, enjoying going through the stalls, you know, the team here are busy at work. But please join us Thursday. Got a couple of things in store for you, and well, we won't tell you exactly, but one of the politicians of, you know, great accomplishment and acumen and charisma and charm will be joining us. That's Thursday. Ay. Under that getting up tree sounds any more and more appealing. Enjoy your holiday tomorrow and please attend the agriculture show and be mindful of your health and wellness and join us again for Talk Today come Thursday. Until then, be blessed.
Shaken yet standing firm. This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.